Earlier in the program we heard about the closure of Lumsden Maternity Centre in Southland, a primary birthing facility which provides birthing and postnatal care to women in the Lumsden and Te Anau areas. Locals are outraged at the decision. In fact, we've just received an email from Joe which says, and I quote, "The decision to downgrade the centre is devastating for our remote rural community here in Te Anau. The DHB have been shown to have used inaccurate birthing statistics and have made a decision that will put the lives of mothers and babies at risk. Their decision defies any practical or ethical reasoning. It's time for the government to step in now and save the centre before it's too late." That's just an example of the kind of feedback we're getting on this. But the loss of the facility will potentially have another impact as well. As we've covered this year, midwives say they're overworked and exhausted, and the money they receive from the Ministry of Health isn't enough to pay them a decent wage and cover the costs of operating in areas where expectant mums can be a very, very large distance apart. Lumsden midwife Sarah Stokes told me the closure of the centre is going to greatly increase her workload, and she's now considering other options. I asked her what she's thinking about doing.
Look, I'd really like to continue to provide maternity services in the area for families, John. I've been a health professional since 1995 as a nurse before I was a midwife. I want to continue to provide safe care. It needs to be sustainable for me and my family, and I don't think it will be if all my intrapartum care is going to be outside of my local area. So, yeah, at this stage, strongly looking at other options for...
Sarah, sorry to interrupt, but can you explain that to me? So you say it's got to be sustainable for you and your family, and if you're going to do care outside your locum area, what are you talking about? That you're going to have to spend an enormous amount of time on the road as the LCM. So you will be travelling a lot and I guess accruing all sorts of extra costs as well. Is that what the concern is?
Exactly. Like I know that, you featured the Dear David campaign earlier this year. All my clients live in rural and remote rural. I already do great distances. Tiredness is a big thing. Time off is a big thing. Yeah, I just don't think it's going to be sustainable.
So having Lumsden as a primary care facility at least gave you periods where you were able to work relatively close to home and were able to base yourself somewhere. Yeah.
And I also know that I've got the support of the primary unit facility midwife that's on. So if I happen to be in Invercargill looking after a woman who has to be induced, her labour has to be induced, or she's got a complication where she has to birth in a hospital setting, if I have some urgent or emergency incident in the Northern Southland or Fiordland area, I know I can call on that facility midwife at Lumsden to see the woman, give the woman reassurance, check them over. I'm not stressed because I know she's being looked after while I'm providing care, more than an hour away. That's not going to be possible if Lumsden closes.
Right, so two questions. The first is looking back. What sort of distances can you do in a busy and demanding week now, and what sort of hours can you do in a bad week? And that's with Lumsden being available as a primary facility. What's a bad week look like?
Well, I'm on call 24/7. I haven't had a holiday for 2 years, but I am about to, so really looking forward to that. Look, I've had occasions where I've had maybe 4 hours sleep over 3 days.
And this will get worse rather than better when you don't have the primary facility in Lumsden.
Yeah, definitely.
So let's look forward, because you said before that you were considering your options. Are you thinking of moving out of the region?
Potentially. I do have my nursing qualification as well, so maybe go back to nursing. I've previously worked in a neonatal unit and rural practice nursing and emergency work. So look, the options are open. We've been in this area for 20 years. We're invested in this area. And yeah, I have a passion for rural health, but I don't think the DHB, really respect rural services. Yeah, we're just going backwards if they close Lumsden.
So if they close Lumsden and women, and you said from Te Anau, may have to drive for what, 2.5 hours potentially.
Yeah.
So babies that come early, there's a due date and the baby comes a week or 10 days earlier, and there is the waters break and there's a sudden rush to the hospital. There is the potential for women not to make it, right?
Exactly. Probably there's been 4 women this year that I can clearly recall that have just driven to Lumsden, which would have been an hour away from them, and they could have easily given birth pulling up in the car park.
And so if Lumsden isn't there, if there's not a facility available for them, then you are going to have babies arriving in cars. Is that a realistic possibility? I
believe so, John, or it's going to put extra pressure on our other services like St John's, even the Volunteer Fire Brigade. They often get called for medical calls if St John's are out of the area, not available. It's just going to put pressure on not just the lead maternity carer midwives in the area, but all the other services as well.
Sarah Stokes, who is a midwife, as you heard, working in that wider Lumsden area. We would love your feedback on it. Text us 2101.